Welcome to Winning-stl, where we have conversations about how St. Louis can best compete and win in the battle for talent, jobs, growth, and equity. Winning-stl is presented by Purina, who creates richer lives for pets and the people who love them, and has proudly called St. Louis home since 1894. Joining me today is Dr. Mark Lombardi, president of Maryville University for the past 17 years. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
So Mark, there's Maryville bucking the trend. So many area schools and universities, probably nationally, are challenged and struggling, and Maryville seems to have avoided that. So what's going on at Maryville?
What's the secret sauce?
What is happening? Yes.
Well, just last year we were named the third fastest growing private university in the country. And I think, we made a commitment years ago, not just to online education, but really a 21st century digital education for all of our students. That meant using the cutting edge technology today in education. And if you combine that with a laser focus on student outcomes, meaning career placement, we've got a career outcomes rate of 98%. 98% of our students are in their chosen field 6 months after graduation. Wow. You take those two pieces and you work that and constantly innovate around that, and you can produce some really good outcomes, and students and families are looking for and they gravitate towards. And the other part of this is it's a not-for-profit world, but that's a tax designation, not a business strategy. Okay. We run the university like a business. That doesn't mean we're looking for a stock price or whatever. Sure. We're looking for demonstrative student outcomes. And what we try to do, and what we, I think, do effectively, is run it so that we're generating the kind of surpluses we can constantly reinvest into the academy. So, for example, we've been able to reinvest, so we're in the top 10% of wired and wireless campuses in the United States. Now, what does that mean? It means students can be learning in class, doing all kinds of things, whether it's inside, outside, at home, no matter where it is. So we're constantly, from a business standpoint, investing in cutting-edge technology and approaches. We run it more like a startup than we do a traditional institution that's been around 150 years.
And it's practical. It's not theoretical. It's you're going to be hands-on with people who are doing this in the business world.
Yeah, in fact, Rawlings has as one example, they have our students design marketing strategies to reach 18 to 30-year-olds with products and so forth. Who better to design those than the target audience themselves?
When you talk about things that were different from your era and my era, esports comes to mind. I was not involved. Don't think it existed. So let's talk about esports. You're kind of a dominant. You're the Alabama football program of esports.
Yeah, we just won our 11th national championship in esports. A sophomore student came into my office a few years ago, said, "I'm a gamer, professional gamer. Let me start esports. If you do, we'll be undefeated as a club sport and we'll win the collegiate national championship." I didn't know one existed. And I talked to Dan Clerk, great guy, and I said, "You know what? You're the only person who's ever done that, so you're on. Let's do it." And we were undefeated. We won the national championship. He graduated in business and then became executive director of esports at Maryville. We weren't going to let him go.
Right.
And he's built this powerhouse. But what's fascinating about gaming and esports is that all that comes around, circles around it like satellites. We've got an in-house gaming company that provides internships to design games on campus. We've got students involved in learning about how to broadcast e-games and how to report on it. So in all the satellite programs around it began to evolve, and now it's its own ecosystem at Maryville.
And I've seen images, video clips of these events, and I had no idea. I mean, there's fans, there's the whole apparatus that I associate with televised sports exists in this ecosystem. I had no idea.
It's tens, hundreds of millions. I'll give you an example. When I had my other hat on with the Sports Commission, we decided to do a esports professional gaming event at Shavitz Arena, partnering with SLU, the great partners. We put the advertisement just out on social media. In 15 minutes, it sold out, 10,000 seats. And we had 2 days of a full game competition at Chavitz Arena. The arena was packed. You couldn't believe how many bags of Doritos and Mountain Dew were sold that day.
I would think a lot. So you mentioned the Sports Commission, Mark. I think for 6 years you were the chair of the St. Louis Sports Commission. So that probably gave you some experiences that you might not have had. So what did you take from that? What did you learn about this region from that experience?
Well, big fan, obviously, of the Sports Commission, the work that Frank Viverito and now Mark Schreiber and Mike Lloyd are doing. But what I learned really was this, and I've lived all over the country, this is a great community with so much to offer both in the sports arena but across the board, the arts and music, and then also the richness and the depth of the history and the identity and the stories. I mean, the stories are incredible. My brother is a jazz fanatic, and he'll say, hey, I just realized Miles Davis is from St. Louis, and he'll start making a list. I go, yeah, jazz is in many ways you could argue along with New Orleans, this is where jazz originated.
The music history is remarkable in and of itself.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think, whether it's the business community, the political leaders, what are we doing right now that is working, that you say, okay, more of that?
Well, I think that there's beginnings of real work on what I would call knitting together a core in the downtown to build from. You have to start from somewhere and building from that and out. I think athletics, sports have played a big part of that. I think St. Louis City has been a big part of that. And I think the mayor and her administration, working with the business community, I think have made some real progress. I think Greater STL is another example. I think the struggle is these things. It's been shown in Indianapolis and Nashville and San Antonio and others. You've got to be patient and you've got to work through the challenges because there's real momentum that can be built from this. I think the danger is people getting frustrated by a setback and thinking, it's not going to work, and backing away. Everybody in the business, political communities need to keep pushing forward. And it's difficult. It's difficult in this political climate to push forward in those areas because everybody on the political spectrum, right or left, are getting pulled in a variety of directions.
I think it's hard to argue that, and I wouldn't begin. I had Jason Hall on this program, who, of course, is the CEO of Greater St. Louis. And his comment, I thought, resonated to me, which was, let's say, this population decline that we saw in the region. He said, that was baked in there more than a decade ago. And you can't change it like that, but you have to start now outlining the areas of business growth that we're going to own, that we are going to kind of be our pillars, going to have as our pillars, and you have to play the long game, that you cannot look for, there's no quick hits, there's no shortcuts.
You do, and you also have to understand, and as we do in the education business, what are young people, and I would say 18, 19, 20 to 35-year-olds, what are they looking for as in their lives, in the way they work and live? They want to live in more urban environments. They want to be able to walk to amenities like restaurants and other kinds of things. They don't want to drive distances for things. They really want to engage in those types of communities. That's why revitalizing, building the downtown, creating livable opportunities for young people downtown, and also professional opportunities where they can walk to work, they can, ride a bike to whatever the case may be. Those kinds of things are important. And I think, too, the other part of this is understanding that the city of St. Louis is vitally important, and this entire region, we're all in it together. And if I have one criticism of St. Louis as an outsider, is this notion that somehow when you cross some boundary on Manchester Road that you're going from one distinctly different place to another. You're not. All those boundaries are really just artificial. They don't mean anything. We're all in this together.
Tell me look ahead and tell me what Maryville looks like, or your vision for it 10 years, 15, 20 years from now.
Well, everyone knows out there that higher ed is undergoing a transition. A lot of schools are going to be closing. Recently, Fontbonne announced that they're closing. A lot of others around the country. What's going to emerge from that, and Maryville, I think, is a leader in this, is a new dynamic of higher education where we're talking about not just student outcomes, not just digital first, not just using AI and learning diagnostics to promote student learning, but also a new business model. What we're working towards at Maryville, hopefully we'll be there by the end of this decade, is moving away from a tuition model to a subscription model. So education being something where you might pay a subscription similar to your cell phone or something. You're paying $200-300 a month, but you're able to access the entire platform of education, and you're able to do it for the rest of your life. So because lifelong learning is a reality, we're all going to have to reskill and skill up periodically, no matter what our profession is. You can constantly access knowledge, information, new skills and abilities that you're going to need as you move through your career, or careers for most of us.
All right. Now that really sounds like you're turning it on its head. So that does sound pretty innovative. That's fascinating.
Well, for the last 6 years, we've frozen tuition. We've told everyone who will listen, all of our students, families, we're never going to raise it again. We actually lowered it 5% in 2020. And what that is the beginning of this platform, the beginning of us moving in this direction. Now, I'll go back to my office and have 20 parents saying, when are you doing the subscription model? And I got to tell everybody it's coming. Yeah. But really, I think that's where the evolution of higher ed's going to be. And I think that's the only way that education can be made truly democratized for everyone. When you talk about access and opportunity, the factor that limits people's access to a great education is cost. And that element has to be taken, at least, it can't be eliminated from the equation. You can't, if you make it free, it'll cost everybody a fortune, as we know. But if you can change that business model and move it in this direction, you open up access and opportunity for literally millions of people who don't have it right now.
Well, that seems like a pretty good way to end this, pretty hopeful way as well. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.